So we are at the booth of Stronghold. They manufacture roasters. And actually we never presented Stronghold in our videos, but I think it's a nice moment to do it here in South Korea because they are actually based in South Korea, and we had the opportunity to speak with Ben Put, who is a multiple Canadian Barista Champion and was also many times in the finals of the World Barista Championship, and I asked him to explain the roaster to us.
So I'm a brand ambassador for Stronghold, so I'm at the shows roasting coffee. I roast on the Stronghold pretty much every day, and then we roast for some shows. We also use the Stronghold to roast for competitors.
Okay.
So this year we roasted for 4 competitors at the WBC on Stronghold.
What makes the Stronghold a special roaster? What kind of technology is it using?
Yeah, I think what makes Stronghold special is from an interface standpoint, it has all the features that like really experienced roasters want, but they put it in a format and a package that you can immediately jump in and start roasting delicious coffee. So it's easy to use. But on top of that, they've spent a lot of time on consistency. So the X models actually have a drum heater inside. So every time you start a roast, that drum heater is adjusting your starting conditions to make sure it's always the same,
nice.
Which is huge.
So you don't need something like a starting batch roast or starting protocol. It's doing it by himself.
Exactly. It figures that out for you, and you can even control how sensitive you want that to be. Like it has a bunch of sensors where you can set it so it has to be exactly like the way you did the batch before. If you want a bit faster production, you can change that. And then on top of that, just the way it applies heat. It uses a lot of air, which gives you very clean roasts with good development. Yeah. It also has halogen roasting. So it's in some other roasters, but it's a fairly new thing in the industry. And what that wavelength allows you to do is it actually can penetrate the bean surface. So we use it to get really great development on filter roasts that have short development, or for espresso, it's awesome because it lets you really get a good even development on an espresso roast.
So what is the base? There, I see like something like a little, I don't know, the coffee will be there?
Yes, yeah.
And then it's kind of drum-like, but you have also a lot of convection.
Yeah, so it's like an inverted drum. It's a vertical drum. It has a paddle, but then it has mostly air. But the other interesting thing on it is that drum heater is not only for between batch preheating, which is great, and it's what I like about that drum heater, but also if you wanted to have more conductive heat, if you love old style drum roasters, you can turn up that drum heater and it's going to put more conductive heat into the roaster. So what they really did is try and have multiple heat sources so you can control and decide what you're going to put into your coffee to get different flavors.
If we talk differences between roasting drip coffee here and espresso roasting, would you go, for example, for roasting espresso a bit more conductive, or what would be your approach?
Yeah, so for espresso roasting, a little bit more conduction, a little bit halogen, a little bit longer, because I want to penetrate the bean surface a bit more. But the nice thing about this is it does such a good job developing that most of my adjustments are just on the development time end. Because the other interesting thing that you'll see on this is it has 2 actual types of bean probe. It has a physical bean probe that you can see in there, but it also has an infrared bean probe. So it's measuring in real time the surface of the coffee,
nice.
Which I find for espresso makes it much easier. For me, espresso roasts, you have to stretch them out a bit longer. Sometimes if you don't have enough heat, the espresso roast can stall. But if you have an infrared sensor that can tell you exactly what's happening in that moment, you can never stall. You can you almost crash where you're not there. And to me, for espresso roasts, that works perfect.
Super cool. One question I get always from roasteries and also from roasteries buying really good coffees is the scalability from a small roaster to a bigger roaster in terms of using the same profiles. How is it with the Stronghold in your opinion?
That's what's interesting with Stronghold that they've done in recent years. The first model that ever came out was the 7s, and they can roast about 200 to 700 grams. But then since then, Stronghold has just continued to add to the family. So it's not released yet, but there's a sample roaster on this bar. There is a larger roaster called the 8 that can roast 2 to 5 kilos, and then the 9 can roast 2 to 8 kilos. So on those ones, they actually do scale completely across the board. Like a good example, most of my experience was on the 7. They threw an 8 in front of me. I did the same thing that I do on the 7 on the 8, and then it came out good. Nice. And so there's not much more you can ask for.
Very cool. So you can really also develop some profiles with the smaller one and then go to the bigger one, which is such a big help, especially if you buy very expensive in competition coffees.
Absolutely. If you think about it, a great way to roast an expensive coffee would be to put it on the 7. You can put half a kilo in. If that works, you can go to a 9, put 6 kilos in and know that you're not going to have to, write it off for taxes.
It seems that there is kind of a really good system to clean how do you call it? The emissions.
Yeah, the exhaust. So this is something really unique for Stronghold. This platform, it's not just a platform, it's also a filtration system.
Okay.
So it allows you to, it will filter the exhaust so you have almost no smoke, which is why we're able to actually roast on the show floor without, filling the room with smoke. So it's really, really useful. Actually, like, I think there's lots of brands that baristas work with, but this one actually I use every day. It makes coffee really well, and the nicest thing is it is easy to jump into. Like, I think roasting, you have to have so much technical knowledge sometimes, and not just about coffee, but about mechanical things. And to have a roaster where like it's literally just like up and down on a touchpad is pretty amazing.
What I like also, if you have kind of the same exhausting thingy down there, I often have the problem if I install a Diedrich or a Gießen and you have your own channels,
the ducting and all that,
the ducting yourself. This makes actually the big difference between roasteries.
Huge.
And if you have kind of I think this is kind of calibrating or synchronizing.
It's always going to be the same. Yeah, it is always going to be the same.
Neither you are in Basel with a chimney of 20 meters like we are, or in Canada we could just have a call and talk about your profiles, our profiles.
And they will line up.
You should roast Deborah or whatever like this, and we could apply it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So cool.
Yeah, very cool.